where migrants are being raided and deported the most. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's talk about it.
Mexican National Guard and Army trucks are now at the border separating Mexico and El Paso, Texas. They're among the first of 10,000 troops that Mexico will send to its northern border after tariff threats from President Donald Trump. Patrols have also been seen near Tijuana, Mexico, near San Diego. This comes as ICE cracks down on undocumented immigrants already living in the United States. Yesterday, ICE conducted a multi-location enforcement operation in the Denver area. Now, this includes the apartment complex deemed to be a criminal nuisance after a series of incidents relating to gang activity.
Unfortunately, we have to come to the communities because we don't get the cooperation that we need from the jails. It would be so much easier and so much safer for our officers and agents if we could take these people into custody from a safe environment. But if we have to come out in the community to do this, that's what we're going to do.
Isn't it unfortunate that our police, ICE, all of these people that are working to keep our communities safe have to deal with these legislators and these governors and these mayors and these city council people and aldermen and protesters and people that's basically protecting criminals? Why wouldn't they let y'all go into the jail and get the criminals? What is the point of y'all saying that, hey, we already arrested them? They not asking for your assistance to find people that's not in the jails. If you arrest them for something that they're not supposed to be doing, then they commit an egregious crime. Just tell us so we can pick them up so that we don't have to hunt them down and then put our officers in danger. At some point, you have to start holding these people accountable for harboring fugitives and not helping you to actually keep our American streets safe.
But if we have to come out in the community to do this, that's what we're going to do.
Thank you for this cash.
Meanwhile, the Department of Defense just shared this video of first flight of undocumented immigrants arriving at Guantanamo Bay. The DOD says the people on the flight were, quote, high-threat criminals who brought violence and mayhem to communities. CBS News immigration correspondent Camilo Montoya Galvez is following all of this for us, talking about deportation and immigration. So, Camilo, first off, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. What do we know about these migrant holding operations happening at Guantanamo Bay?
Wait. So I want to say something real quick before we get to Guantanamo Bay, because we're going to move over into the person that actually is leading this effort shortly in the next segment. Is this racist? In your opinion, is this racist? Is it racist to have Camilo, the one that's on the ground reporting about migrants and deportation? Because the only assignments that I see Camilo get, is it okay if Camilo come into CBS and say, you know what, guys? I feel like I'm being disenfranchised. I feel like it's being set up against me. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. You guys keep sending me out here to talk about migrants because they would mistake me for a migrant in a suit. And I want to be at the news desk right next to you, my chocolate queen. Is it fair? Is it fair? No, because I see everybody in the chat saying no. But then we'll go over to CNN and see Ashley Allison saying, I deserve to be at the head of the table because I have all of these degrees and I shouldn't be only talking about black issues. Should we have regular people? Should black people be the ones that's out there reporting on it? Should white people be out there reporting on it? Why is Camilo always on the migrant situation? You are correct, Carlisle, because he probably speaks multiple different languages, which makes him more of an asset for CBS to be able to send out there on these assignments and do the things that he's doing as far as communicating more effectively, because he can relate to it. It's almost like when Fox News would bring me up to get my perspective when Barack and Michelle would go into the barbershop and tell people, you guys need to, hey, you guys need to make sure that you vote based off of this and diversity, equity, and inclusion and identity politics and all of this stuff, right? So then they bring me in and they say, Anton, what's the pulse that's happening in your neck of the woods, and does he represent what it is that you think that you should be espousing? I say, absolutely not. Why would we be listening to Michelle Obama on what's supposed to happen in the community? They've been so far removed, we don't even know who they are. They just jumped on their private jet, did not start talking, right? You know why? Because why would you bring a white woman to come in and speak on black issues? A white woman is not inside of a black barbershop, right? Never been inside of a black barbershop. And it's the same thing when it comes to Camilo. Camilo needs to be out here in the streets, in the field, finding out what's going on in the streets. Camilo, do your job.
Well, U.S. officials tell CBS News that a military plane is currently in the air en route to Cuba to transport nearly a dozen migrant detainees to Guantanamo Bay so they can be held there as part of this operation that was green-lighted by President Trump to really create a massive detention center there for those who are arrested by immigration authorities in the interior of the U.S., on the U.S. mainland. And this is the second of these types of flights that have occurred this week, sending again a dozen detainees. We are told that these immigrants are from Venezuela and that they have alleged and suspected ties to the notorious. And
Shine said, if you're a good reporter, you get the job. Don't matter the color. No one should be in place because of the color of their skin. And you are absolutely wrong. See, this is where context matters. This is where context matters, okay? Let's say you're a phenomenal reporter, but you have an inability to penetrate, from a journalistic perspective, certain cultures because they automatically look at you as an op when you walk in. Because again, being a great journalist is not just documenting or reporting on something. It's also deep diving into issues and finding out information that other people may not have been familiar with or giving a take on it, right? And so on one hand, being the best reporter is very much tied to your identity, but that's the context behind not wanting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is to equalize it across the board just because of the color of your skin. But it does not take into account that the color of your skin can help you penetrate some other cultures or bring a difference of perspective into certain environments that would allow for you to be able to be a better reporter. If a woman is much more conducive for my restaurant to sit at there with her perched up titties in order to attract men in there that want to come in there and go to the bar, then guess what? I'm going to put a woman up there. I'm not going to put a man up there just to try to equalize it out. And everybody don't have the ability to do the same things as everybody else. We don't have to equalize it and say your identity is going to play a role and we need to cut off this amount of people that are already doing the job just so we can have this many other people to do it. It's not the same thing. They may not be willing to talk to you, right? I don't need women inside of the plant that can't lift up over 120 pounds when that's what the job requires, just for the sake of saying that we got more women inside of there, right? But at the same time, identity matters in that situation because the best person for the job just so happened to be almost all men. Does that make sense to you, right? If I'm going to investigate or I need somebody to take me across the border in order to penetrate and find out more about what's going on with the cartels over in Mexico, chances are I'm going to hire somebody from Mexico or a Mexican that can speak the language and also can better identify so that we don't stick out like a sore thumb because I'm already a black man going over to Mexico trying to penetrate the cartel. You can say, well, that person is a phenomenal reporter too. Yeah, but I need a Mexican right now. I need a Mexican. I don't want somebody over here just because you felt like they're the best reporter for the job in this particular instance, because the best reporter for the job is the one that's going to help me blend in. And so that's why we have to start going into the context. Some people will use that in order to justify, oh my God, this is why we need diversity, equity, and inclusion. No, the context is we need the best person for the job, but also the job may require you to go with somebody from an identification purpose to get the job done. The diversity, equity, and inclusion part is when you then bring in somebody else that may not blend in, but because you want to equalize it, then that's when you start to say, oh man, we need diversity, equity, and inclusion in there. No. This job is a job that I need a Mexican for and a translator so that I can penetrate the cartel to better investigate what's going on. That's where the context matters. Liberals will then use that to justify diversity, equity, and inclusion, but that's where you have to start adding in the context, all right? We need Camilo out in the field finding out what's going on, and you better speak Spanish.
Infamous Venezuelan prison gang, Tren de Aragua, which of course has become a focal point of the president's crackdown on illegal immigration. Very soon after he took office, he actually moved forward to designate this gang as a foreign terrorist organization. So it is something that he has highlighted on the campaign trail and now at the White House. In terms of the conditions at the naval base, this facility has been housing asylum seekers intercepted at sea, such as Haitians and Cubans, for decades under Republican and Democratic administrations. But now it is housing detainees arrested on the U.S. mainland, including Venezuelans who right now cannot be deported to their home country. We are told that officials here and in Guantanamo Bay are working to expand capacity there, including by setting up 10 facilities inside the naval base to house as many as 30,000 migrant detainees.
And Camilo, we are hearing some reports that ICE is releasing some migrants due to 100%. Capacity issues. So what do we know exactly about those people who are getting released?
That's right. According to internal Department of Homeland Security data obtained by CBS News, as of earlier this week, Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facilities were at 109% capacity. The agency was housing about 42,000 immigrant detainees who were arrested by the agency, despite on paper only having enough space for about 38,000 detainees. And so right now, detention facilities across the country have surpassed that capacity, and the agency is scrambling to try to expand detention capacity as quickly as possible. How is it planning on doing that? Well, ICE right now, we understand, is considering a plan that would allow Customs and Border Protection holding facilities along the U.S.-Mexico border to be used to house detainees that the agency is arresting in the interior of the country, including during these operations in cities like Denver, Chicago, and New York City, and other large urban metropolitan areas across the country. It is also turning to the Department of Defense, which, as we just discussed, has already granted the agency access to Guantanamo Bay, but also a military installation in the Denver area. And we are told that more military installations could be repurposed as immigration detention centers.
Okay. All right, so let's pivot for a second, all right?